I've traveled all over the world and I've met incredible people, highly successful people, leaders, volunteers, change makers. But still, when it comes down to Battletown, the wisdom of the people there, their giving hearts, and their unique character, I'm in awe of the place where I was raised and the things that I learned and what was really truly important in life and what really defines success. And in Battletown, success comes from relationships and happiness and love and helping one another and acting like one unit instead of a bunch of people just living together. They really do have the spirit of a village and of a community, a common unity, and that is Battletown. So I lived in Battletown until I was 18 years old.
I am a small town girl from Battletown, Kentucky. I lived there until I was 17 years old.
I lived in Battletown, Kentucky until I was 21 years old.
For about 60 years, I guess.
And have lived there most of my life.
I lived in Battletown for 25 years.
From birth until I married my husband.
All my life, 69 years.
Although I never lived there again, Battletown was and is always my home. No matter what state I lived in, special times were made when I traveled home. When I was born, my parents lived in a one-room house without water or electricity. There was a wooden box on the porch outside of the kitchen window. They used that as a refrigerator. When food items were needed, the window was simply opened. My crib was a large shoebox. Life in Battletown was simple and rural. There was one stop sign, 3 grocery stores, 4 churches, and a post office housed in one of the grocery stores.
At the top of the hill was the first church, then you would come to the school and then go down a big hill and there was a crossroads, and at the crossroads were 2 of the stores and the post office, and that was kind of what we considered like the center of town.
When you go through Battletown, all you can do is go down, make a loop, and come back out. But Battletown sits on a corner of Kentucky, and if you kept going, you'd run straight in the river.
And the beauty being right there along the Ohio River, this little tiny town that if you drove through, you would miss it.
Was a hub of activity, particularly in late afternoons and Saturday mornings when people from the outlying farms would come to town, as they called it. It was a place where all the action was. There was always a horseshoe game in the lot there beside the store, and there were old men that were telling stories, and the tobacco chewers were chewing tobacco.
My favorite spot in Battletown is probably the porch on the Crawford store. On Friday and Saturday nights, we would go, everybody'd kind of go their own way and do their own thing. Then we would come back about midnight and sit on the store benches, and everybody would tell stories about where they had been that night and what they had done.
Later, men formed a volunteer fire department in an old storage building. The men would also gather there to play cards.
One of my stories was that it took us so long to get there that when we started buying equipment, we bought step ladders. And a lot of people said, step ladders? Why in the world would you buy step ladders? And because by the time we got there, we had nothing to lean our ladders against.
As a teenager, I had the privilege to work for Mr. Hamilton at his grocery store. He had a pet snake, and he often kept it inside his shirt. The first time I saw the snake stick its head outside the shirt, I froze, but soon learned that was just Mr. Hamilton's ways.
The social life in Battletown was pretty much surrounded by the churches and the schools, and almost everyone participated.
Times were more laid back then. My granddad believed in education. Although he didn't have much schooling himself, he made sure his kids did, all 9 of them. When my mom graduated from high school, he set her up in a one-room school, teaching 1st grade through 8th grade. Several of her students were her own brothers and sisters. Later, Granddad was on the school board, and he was instrumental in getting the school built in Battletown.
When we were kids, the school had just opened up. The kids before my class actually had to go to one-room schoolhouse. So we were the first class to go all the way through Battletown School. And then later on, I came back and taught school at Battletown for several years.
It was like a huge family, and the friendships that I made, even the kids that I started 1st grade with, are still some of my best friends.
My sister-in-law has wrote a book, 2 books actually, had him published about the witch that lives in the school. And she roams up and down the school, and they've had ghost hunters in there and have seen her and all this stuff. And if you're lucky enough to be there, you can feel her presence or even see her shadow or whatever.
The post office was another place for the townspeople to gather and visit.
Actually, the post office was in my grandfather's, the front room of his house, and I always thought that was neat, and that I was pretty famous.
Mom was in the post office, so she knew if anyone was sick, if anyone's check didn't come in the mail, or if anyone had a need, Mom generally knew it, and people would take food, do whatever, and help one another. And it was just a time when people didn't judge people, and people were good to one another.
Battletown also has 3 huge rock quarries, and the rock that they go after is called oolite rock, and it's one of the few places in the United States that has it. It's ground up for lime, gravel, all kinds of things, but they are major rock quarries.
Most people were farmers, like my granddad, or they worked at the rock quarry. The grandkids would help Granddad work on the farm. The boys would take in hay and strip tobacco, both hard work. It prepared them for the football team later on. The girls would gather eggs and bring in produce.
Battletown has produced state representatives, judges, boat captains. It has actually had very intelligent people come out of Battletown.
Within basically a mile was my whole universe. I didn't realize what else I was ever missing. We'd have to go all the way to Louisville, Kentucky to go to the doctor. Instead, I learned so much about the world and entertaining yourself and having an imagination. And then on top of that, you have the stories of how the town was founded. I mean, it was 2 men in a fight over trading shotguns and wives, and they wrestled for like 2 days, and the postmaster was trying to come up with a name for the town, and so they came up with Battletown. Only witch in the United States to be burned was in Battletown. Way back in the day, they locked this girl named Leah Smock in her smokehouse and burned her because they were afraid she was a witch.
People will say that if you didn't live in Battletown, then you don't understand Battletown, and that's very true. It was such a family-oriented group of people. We went to school together, we went to church together, went trick-or-treating together. It didn't matter whether you had money or didn't have money, nobody cared.
In the early days, we had a wooden crank phone hanging on the wall. Most people did not have phones, but word got around, especially in times of need. Kids did not have phones or other technology, and we had to get creative in our play. We used what we found, and we played hard, walking all over the community, going from house to house. My brother always said that like free-range chickens, we were free-range kids.
We play war and go into caves and little water stream areas, and sometimes even we would sneak over to the quarry and
We would swim in the river, and some of us, especially me since I was not a good swimmer, would use watermelons as flotation devices. Afterwards, Joe Mack would hit the melons on a rock, and we would all dig in for that sweet treat. Of course, there was always a watermelon food fight with the leftovers.
We didn't have many sleds, so what we would use was car hoods. There was a lot of old car hoods laying around, so and so many more could get on a car hood than you could a sled. So we liked our car hoods.
All of the kids loved Halloween. There were no Walmarts to buy a costume. So again, we would get creative and work with what we had.
And we would start really early because even though there wasn't many people, it took forever because you didn't just knock on the door and get some store-bought candy. You had to come in and they would pretend like they didn't know who you were, and then finally, after you visited with them for a while, you would get the most wonderful homemade candies, fudges, popcorn balls.
My sisters and all the other cousins in the community, we were all close. We all grew up together and played together and fought together.
Cousins were more like sisters and brothers back then.
The people in Bowtown took care of one another, and everyone knew everyone.
The kids would meet, and we just had run of the town. We'd go anywhere. We had 1,500 acres of woods that we played in, and whoever's houses that we ended up at lunchtime, they would take us in and feed us. But if we did anything out of the way, the same people would correct you. So it's just like, and if you did something bad enough, and the word got back to mom and dad, that was bad news.
The saying, "It takes a village," is true. The whole community looked after us and taught us. Get-togethers were not only fun, but important. Often families would combine meals and share, and there were always stories and lots of laughter.
Battletown had a lot of characters that were funny in their own way.
Goat was selling his couch on Tradio. He's like, oh, it's like brand new. It only cost you $50. Oh my gosh, it's an amazing couch. And so the announcer's like, well, if it's such a great couch, why are you selling it? And he's like, because I'm tired of mowing around it.
Most everyone in Battletown had a nickname. It wasn't to make fun, but kind of an endearing connection with one another.
Mike Thompson was Bulldog, Ham Hamilton, Red Eye Hockman, Stiff Lawson.
And there was a man that was called Bush Hog. and his son was called Weed Eater.
Everybody was there for each other, and I've heard it tell that my grandmother was a quilter, and those quilts were made and given when a family lost their home to a fire. People would just come together and help those people build back.
One man had his face blown off by a shotgun from here down, and he was the scariest looking individual I've ever seen. And he had a hole in his throat, and that's how he would pour his nutrients in. He was such a scary guy. But people embraced him and looked past that and looked at the person he was.
There was a quarry that took interest and moved into Battletown, and at the beginning it didn't affect us much, but they kept buying up more and more land. Even if someone didn't want to sell, they would just make their house like an island around just big crater holes in the ground and stuff, to the point where they eventually did just sell them their land, to the point where a lot of places in Battletown are not even recognizable now. Where my granddad and grandmother's house was, you can't even tell.
Most of all, I love the memories made in the Battletown community. The town has changed now. Only one church, a part-time post office, and the big box grocery stores have closed, the ones in Battletown. The town is a little faded to me, mostly because of my parents and other family members passing away.
It was hard selling my granny's house. And it wasn't really the house and the stuff. It was just the thought that I would have no reason to visit.
It had some kind of a charm, you know. It's kind of lost that.
It's not a place where you can go visit and hear stories anymore.
Used to be, I knew everybody. Now I don't know anybody hardly.
But the one thing that stays the same is your friendship to the people that you grew up with, that you were around.
Just the sense of community and seeing people, and that I knew that if I was in trouble, or if I was hurt, or if I needed help getting home, that they would just help me.
I saw people who immediately would go over to mow somebody's yard if they weren't feeling well, or bring them food if someone had passed away.
The town is faded, but the heart is still there in the memories I hold dear. Battletown was where I found love, the love from people.
But the magic of the place was the people and the essence of the town and who they were and how they were.
It definitely was a part of our history that has shaped us and our values and what we feel is important.
It was such a blessing to grow up there and to be loved there.
If every child could have the experience of being raised in Battletown, the world would be a lot better off.
I'm the owner of Wrap Artists in Nashville, Tennessee. We do large format fleet wraps and bus wraps for country music artists and all things wall wraps.
Nashville, Tennessee, a booming city much known for its entertainment. Such as the Country Music Hall of Fame, music venues, bars, and sports. And whiskey. Countless members of celebrities started their careers here, performing in the live bars. However, the country music industry is much larger than most would give it credit. One business that flourishes from it is rap artist. Welcome to the world of rap artists, large enough to fit 4 tour buses and some spare cars. This 7,500 square foot building is fully equipped with any rapper's needs. From the break lounge, to the snack room, and not excluding the King Kong wall mural, the Han Solo door, and toilet basketball. Rap Artist has it all. Owner, Jamie Mullican, specializes in advertisement. He uses vinyl, stickers, to rap. The first step is the design process, in which he edits and creates a template of the client's vision.
The design process typically consists of a phone call. Basically, I visually design verbally. I have a lengthy conversation with the customer. I can typically direct them in the direction based on what I'm hearing. And then once I gather all the necessary information, I typically put a proof together, email it to the customer, and then allow them to make changes. Very rarely do I have a customer ever come and sit down with me. There's just no time for that. I can do everything online.
On to the print room. Using large format printers, Jamie prints his templates on large rolls of adhesive backing vinyl. After printing, it creates gigantic rolls of sticker material.
Installs. Basically, installing itself is an art form. You're basically conforming the vinyl to the shape of the vehicle or the wall.
I really like working at Rap Artist because of the vibe. What I do at Rap Artist is run the floor as far as installs go, cars, buses, trailers. I'm primarily the one down here rapping with everyone.
So here at Rap Artists, we primarily focus on the entertainment industry, doing entertainment raps, which are, anytime a country artist or artists in general is going out on tour, they're going to likely get trailer raps. The trailers are however many trailers they get, depending on how big their tour is. Is it a stadium tour? Is it a fair and fairgrounds type tour? That's based on how many trailers they get. So we started getting into that side of the industry and built a thing for ourselves. So you name an artist, some point in time I've either done their bus or done their trailer. Over the years, we've just grown and gotten faster and more efficient at it. The one that really stands out and put us on the map would be Jake Owen. And in late 2014, he called and gave me his whole tour. So we designed his tour trailers, which he did 5, and we did his bus route, which was Days of Gold, which was his big hit album.
My hope for the future in this industry is to continue to do cool work and make good money doing it.
My suggestion for anyone wanting to be an entrepreneur is don't be afraid to work. You're going to work twice as hard as you would working for someone. The flip side of it is you are your own boss, you control everything. What I did was I created a job out of something that I thoroughly enjoy and I'm very passionate about it. So to me, it really isn't work. You hear that all the time. Do something you love to do and it won't feel like work. That is absolutely true.
Jamie is also a 3M authorized graphic instructor. He plans on opening a second business called the School of Wrap, where he will train and certify new installers.
Anthony Quinn Warner, known by his friends as Tony, is a 63-year-old man who lived in Antioch, Tennessee, about 12 miles from the explosion site. He died when his RV exploded on 2nd Avenue in downtown Nashville. More than 40 buildings were damaged or destroyed, 8 people hurt. The RV was parked outside of a key AT&T transmission facility, which was assumed to be the target. A block away, Legendary Milkshake Bar was rattled by the explosion.
My name's Cheyenne Fry. I've been here at Legendary for 2 years as a shift lead. I am in nursing school in hopes of becoming a registered RN, eventually maybe a nurse practitioner. As far as the explosion goes, of course, all of us were out of work. We lost all of our power, which resulted in all of our cold goods being ruined. We were able to donate some of our frozen goods that had thawed out. Other than that, that's really all. We got really lucky. Not any like structural damage was affected, other than there's like a piece outside on our mural when you first look in that's popped open. But other than that, we were really lucky because everybody else on the street pretty much had their windows like kind of busted out. So we've been really lucky. So typically right now for us anyways, just because it's kind of cold, our business is typically slower, but add the bombing and just everything else that's kind of gone on in the world, it's been even more slow. So it's really affected everybody as far as like job wise and stuff, because if you don't have the customers, then staffing wise, you know. So the business has been declined.
Warner's reasoning remains unclear, but it seems as though he wanted to hurt as few people as possible. Metro Police were called to the site before the explosion at 5:30 a.m. thanks to a report of gunshots in the area. This is when they spotted an RV playing a recording stating an explosion was about to occur in 15 minutes, while also playing the song Downtown by Petula Clark. Police immediately tried their best to clear the area of everyone they could before the explosion happened at 6:30 a.m.
Evacuate now.
Authorities received a tip that a similar-looking RV was parked at a home in Antioch. Bomb technicians cleared the house and investigators entered when it was determined to be safe. Police are not yet saying what was found in the home. Later, however, they matched human remains found at the explosion site to Warner through DNA testing, proving he was the one who committed the act. Unfortunately, it is still unclear why Warner did what he did. However, the act has been deemed to not be terrorism as it appears to lack political motivation. Many speculate Warner was anti-5G, which is why he targeted the AT&T building, but we may never know. 5G is the 5th generation technology standard for broadband cellular networks. Some people fear 5G towers put out too much power, which could lead to radiation exposure, but scientists say 5G is safe. As of February 2021, the investigation is still open. It may take years to find out why Tony Warner changed Nashville forever.
This is the Pepsi production facility in Nashville, Tennessee. It was established during the 1980s. This facility produces around 450,000 bottles a month. The person who oversees the bottle production is Scott Cornelison.
I've been here for 10 years. I started out as a machine operator. I ran the blow mold and labeler back there on the bottle line. So whenever I came in, all that equipment was sitting in boxes. It was in big crates.
This year has been a good year, despite the setbacks caused by COVID-19.
It has affected us somewhat. We actually had a pretty good year during COVID, believe it or not. I think we were down for just a couple of days, a few days. I don't remember exactly how many, but we fired back up. We got a plan together for mask and that kind of thing, put a plan together and started back up running.
All these machines need to be kept operational, and when they break, the person who fixes them is David Watkins.
I'm a maintenance mechanic. I actually do the repair work on the equipment out here to keep the machinery rolling. It's various. We got numerous, probably well over 100 different pieces of style of equipment, from batch equipment to filling equipment to packaging equipment, and so it's vary on how a line runs to what piece might go down today or give you a problem, but it's sometimes pretty frequent sometimes because some of the age of the equipment we have is very old. When I first came here, we were still running the non-returnable glass bottles. Non-returnable glass bottles. Thank God they was already out of the returnable glass bottles at that time, but we still had some of the old equipment in here, and eventually over years pulled it out and installed some newer stuff. Now we just do the cans and the plastic now, so it's come a long way.
The bottles are formed, labeled, filled, and shipped all over Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Johnny Hobson. I'm from the band Future Crib, and this is a look into my creative process and how I've made music so far. I got started playing music with other people when I was in 8th grade, and I was making some more friends, and I joined the jazz band, and I played bass, and we eventually formed our own band called NAF Noise, which was the band we had in high school, and we started playing house shows at my parents' house and at friends' houses, and got to know other bands that way, and it just kind of became this really natural, organic way of growing into a music community. I started recording in high school. I was 13 or 14 because I wanted a way to record our own music, the band's own music, and music that I would make on my own. So the first thing I bought was a Scarlett 2x2 Focusrite interface, and now we have this studio with a large format console and tape machines. Future Crib is a band I started my senior year of high school when NAF Noise was slowing down and everybody was kind of getting busier with school stuff. A lot of their time was taken up that way, so I had all this creative energy that I had to get out somehow, and all these songs that fit together but didn't really go with what we had been doing so far. So I bought a tape machine and recorded the whole thing on my own in my basement. I think at this point, when we want to go record an album, the people who write songs in the band are just constantly writing, and over the course of 6 months we might have 20, 25 songs, and maybe we've all been going through similar things, or we're finding similar themes in the songs that would go well together on an album. So we spend some time like making playlists of the songs and sending them to each other and making different orders and stuff of the demos that we have to try to find the songs that fit best together and say what we want to say in a concise amount of time, instead of having an album with 30 songs or just putting out one song at a time. So when we have those 10 songs, what has been really helpful to us recently is just picking a concise amount of time and saying this is when we're doing the record, instead of being like, oh, just come over on the weekends and do what you can, because then it never gets done. So that first Future Crib record was a record where I put a lot more of my own personality and things I wanted to express into it, and it felt a lot more personal to me, even though the songs and the lyrics are pretty simple. A lot of the things that I wrote for NAF Noise were more impressionable, and the lyrics didn't necessarily make very much sense, and I kind of wrote about random things. But once I started writing songs that felt like they meant something to me, it felt like something more sustainable that I could do for a longer time and create more of. So I think that's what made those songs feel pretty cohesive and what made that album go together at the time. I think for a long time the creative process to me when I was younger seemed more streamlined. Like, okay, I start writing a song on a guitar, and once I have the whole song written on guitar, I can add the drums, I can add the bass, I can add the keys, or whatever. But since then, it just gets really hard to have one defined process of creativity, because there is none. So for me now, I try to like begin the creative process with something that I'm super unfamiliar with. Like maybe I'll pick the instrument that I haven't played in months to start writing a song on because I'm the most unfamiliar with it, and it puts me in this place where I don't fall into old habits and I don't just start doing the same stuff that I do every time I pick up a guitar or every time I sit down at the drum kit. So that way it makes every song a little unique and exciting to me, and also makes everything feel more interesting and less like they just came from the same exact place. Maybe they end up in a similar place, but they weren't all written on a guitar. And recording is a huge part of the creative process for me. I've always, when I've written songs, just recorded all the parts into a demo myself, because I get into this headspace where I can't really think about anything else. And I think a lot of people are that way too, where an idea is so exciting, you just want to see the final product now, and it's almost like being impatient. So I'll start recording without even having an idea, but sometimes I'll surprise myself and do something that ends up in the final version of the song. So it's kind of like putting this exciting pressure on the process. Future Crib for a long time was just me and a rotating cast, whoever would play. It would mostly just be friends that we had met from school or other bands, or just knowing people from playing around. And then eventually it settled on these 4 people, me, Julia, and Bryce, and Noah Pope. And then eventually our friend George also joined. I think performing for me is a big way that I express myself, and something that I definitely need. It's like taking the stuff that I've created and making it real. Performing it in front of people is the only way. And releasing music is kind of like performing in that way, where it's not just yours anymore, it's everybody's, and it can be anybody's. But I think taking those songs that we've made and playing them live in front of people is the best way for me to like find out exactly what they mean to me. Playing shows since I was a kid was really cool, and especially growing up in Nashville, doing it was really cool, because the more we played and the more we got to know people around, the more of an awesome community just kind of came out of nowhere. I think the thing that I'm most motivated by is connecting with other people, and from when we've gone on tours and gotten to play our music for people and have them come up to us and say maybe how important a certain song is or how much they enjoyed the performance. I think that is what keeps me going, which is why this year has been so hard, because I haven't been able to do any of that at all. And when it's just me, it's really hard to find like a reason to keep doing it. So I'm looking forward to getting to express myself and also connect with other people who want to express themselves in the same way. Time
sickening wounds. Patched pavement provides a home. Feel it rumble faster all the time. We stumble only to stay in line. No one's up against you, put your guard back down. There's nothing that you need to keep you going. 1,000 puddled reasons in a worried storm. The things that you hold close that cannot blow away.
It really is a game where you have to step up and compete, even if you don't like the Nashville machine. I believe it's something that you have to be here to be in the flow. Hi, my name is Jason Krupek. I played in bands, and then I was in the music industry for 19 years. Actually started as an intern, moved up to mailroom, and then became an A&R executive and a publishing executive. I always told people, you have to move here to really be part of Music City. You have to understand the flow and the vibe that happens from being here, hearing other songwriters, getting better at your skill. I played guitar. I was in 3 different bands. My first band was a band called Rathbone, which was actually named after the actor who played Sherlock Holmes. But our drummer's brother told us that it was actually a nemesis of Sherlock Holmes, which seemed cooler, but still Rathbone. And we added a W to it, like Wrath, like we were a metal band, so had to be a little tougher. Second band was Vendetta.
Ladies and gentlemen, Vendetta.
And joined that band, or was part of starting that band, because the singer and I had gotten kind of overlooked in the other band, kind of gotten booted a little bit. So our mission was a vendetta against the other band, and we were great. We got to play a lot more gigs than they did and lasted a lot longer than they did. And even here closer to home, I remember the story of a song plugger who chased Faith Hill down to the Kroger parking lot in Green Hills to give her a song. And of course she was freaking out, like calling police, and he gave her a song and she ended up recording it. So you just never know.
Third place, Vendetta. Congratulations, gentlemen.
My name's Joshua Mack. I'm a Nashville native. I was born and mostly raised here. I'm a writer. I'm a songwriter. I'm a guitar player. I'm all those things every day and no days.
We did stop you from dying.
My band is Natchez Tracers. We've been together, it's me and Louis Stubbs, who I used to play music with and skateboard with in 7th and 8th grade. We started this band back in 2014. We are presently working on our newest collection of songs with an EP we'll have out in early 2021.
Me and Doggy still get our fills. The newspaper says there's a robot coming. Be my job it takes.
It's our third release. It's all topical songs that are related to the past year or so, this crazy, chaotic year we've all lived through.
Till I started feeling better.
We'll come back to you if you don't do the right things.
Till I started feeling better.
3 things I talk about in life. Just show up.
Till I started feeling better.
Just get there. Second is, just ask. We're prideful people, humans, and we need help sometimes, and it's okay to ask.
Never knew how bad I felt till I started.
If you want something or need some help from someone, just ask them. The worst they can do is say no. And the last one is don't be a whatever that word is, whatever cuss word you want to use, don't be unkind. And if you do that, typically if you stick with those three things, just show up, just ask, just be kind, good things will typically come back to you. Be kind of my recommendation to young artists that are coming up. You know, the music industry loves youth. They like young artists. So when you get old artists, then it kind of gets a little bit trickier. So I'm at that stage now where I'm kind of getting there. Yes, of course I'd love to sell out the Ryman with my band. Who wouldn't? It's not too late. Because the thing is, it's not too late.
For just the second time in school history and first time since 2012, the Brentwood High School football team reached the state championship game. The Bruins battled unbeaten and top-ranked Oakland for a second time this season in the Class 6A Blue Cross Bowl in Cookeville.
We made it to the final game. We knew we didn't get a final game.
Fire to the right side. Oh my God! Stay up! Oh my God! Oh my God! 30! No! 10! Touchdown!
To make it to this point, continue to believe and fight is a true tribute to the top end.
Nick Haley, N-I-C-K-H-A-I-L-E-Y, and 12th grade senior.
My name is Luke Walters, spelled L-U-K-E-W-A-L-T-E-R-S. My time this season was really fun, you know, being a senior, having worked 4 years leading up to a season where you can start. It's just a lot of fun.
We went through a lot together, especially us as seniors with Lucas and Pat and all that. Corona. Yeah, we were really, you could tell that we played with a lot of chemistry.
I think the team did really well this year. Obviously the second time we've made it to state in Brentwood High School history, so that's a huge accomplishment. And a couple of obstacles that we had to overcome was COVID. We had players out in certain games where younger players had to step up because older ones were out because of COVID. And then B, just injuries, a couple starting guys getting injured and younger guys coming up and having to play. But we handled them pretty well and made it to state. To me, it meant that all my work had sort of paid off and showed that believing in working hard and doing the things daily to contribute better to the team pays off senior year when you can get to the state championship and be able to compete.
It was kind of overwhelming at first, and then it just felt like it was right that we were there because we earned our way there. Like the amount of time we spent during practice, after practice, like all the work we put in with our brothers, like it just felt right. But it kind of sucks that it came to an end the way it did, but it was great that we got there.
Playing my last game as a Bruin, I actually thought was a great experience. Ending in state, even though we lost, I thought it was so much fun, like playing on TV. We had a Jumbotron, and you know, I sort of knew going into that game that we were going up against a really good opponent. So I embraced it and took it all in and really enjoyed it.
I give all my credit, all the credit to them, because I mean, like obviously our team doesn't have as much talent as all these other teams, obviously, because I mean, and they're recruiting and stuff. But we play with who comes to us, and they believe in us, and then they had me at like 4 or 5 different positions. And then after my JV season, because I was playing JV as a junior, and then they said, I'm guaranteeing you a starting position next year. So they moved from safety to linebacker, bandit, and they believed in me. So.
I'm Coach Ron Crawford. CRAWFORD. I mean, I think our players can answer the impact of our seniors more than probably me, but I think this year we leaned on them a lot more for leadership as far as things that happened off the field. I think that their ability to focus and to let us know as their coaches that, you know, they wanted to heal things, but they also wanted to play. They also wanted to compete. I thought their attitude, you know, through adversity, through injuries, pandemic, off the field issues was exemplary. I'd say it's the second best in school history without a doubt, man. You know, this is the second time we've won our region 3 years in a row. And then the second time we played in the state championship game. So, I mean, you know, one of the best ever.
Fast food chain Chick-fil-A's history dates back to the 1940s, when its founder, S. Truett Cathy, opened the Dwarf House. 2 decades after introducing one of the country's first chicken sandwiches there, he used that recipe to open the first ever Chick-fil-A in Atlanta in 1967. One factor contributing to the success of the company is that their #1 priority is to treat their customers with respect.
Chick-fil-A as a company, I believe, is so successful because we are more of a people business than a chicken business. So we, of course, want to get all of our food tasting wonderful, but we are most concerned about every guest feeling valued and treated with honor, dignity, and respect.
Because of its popularity, the Brentwood Chick-fil-A is included in the most successful franchises in Tennessee.
I don't think we would necessarily be that as of 2020. We had a few changes in our sales with this year. We're still very successful, and I would say we're in the top 10% though.
Because of its prime location, the Brentwood Chick-fil-A has an advantage over other franchises across the state.
You know, I think we are so fortunate to be in this community because we have the privilege of being so close to schools as well as lots of businesses, especially Maryland Farms. We're close to the interstate. And I think folks here just really, really support their local Chick-fil-A.
Their goal of providing friendly, passionate customer service is what sets them apart from other fast food chains.
I think, as I said before, we are really, really passionate about the people part of our business. And we're also based on biblical principles that work well in business. So treating others the way we want to be treated is huge for us. We want every guest to feel valued and that they are not a transaction, but they're a guest in our restaurant. And I believe that attentiveness and that courtesy that our team gives is one of the reasons people come back.
The franchise constantly evaluates best practices to keep the business running efficiently in the midst of the high demand.
Well, one thing we are very passionate about is, one of the sayings we say here is to see and shape the future. And so we are always looking forward to not celebrating what we're doing now, but also where do we want to be and how do we want the guests to experience an even better experience when they come to our restaurant. So for instance, we are weekly, daily often evaluating all of our systems. How can we make that drive-through go faster? How can we make sure every order is correct? So we are every day adapting. We have a leadership team that works very well together, analyzing the numbers and also listening to our guests and their feedback to make the changes to make it an even better experience every time.
In part because of the community's support, Chick-fil-A was quickly very successful at this location.
You know, fortunately, we are we're in our 16th year, and we were very quickly a very strong business, but every year we have grown in sales and how many guests that we reach out to. So I would say, really right off the bat, just the location has been phenomenal for us. This community is just very supportive. So we were successful early on, but have continued to grow and reach sales goals and transaction goals
every year.
She emphasizes that it's the service customers receive from the staff at Chick-fil-A that contributes to their success.
I believe that is absolutely the heartbeat of our success. We have some guests that come in every single day, and our food is amazing, but I know that's not why they come every single day. They come because our staff treats them like family, and that's how they feel to us. And so I know that attentiveness, that even if we don't get it right every single time, it is our heart to make it right. If we miss something in your order, or if something is incorrect, we want to make sure that we win that guest back to their trust by doing something to let them know that really matters to us.
Representatives from 3 nearby restaurants, McAllister's Deli, Five Guys, and Brick's Cafe, all declined an interview, but commented that Chick-fil-A's increasing popularity has heavily impacted traffic on Franklin Road, making for hazardous driving conditions at peak times, in addition to limiting parking availability. Needless to say, Chick-fil-A has been very successful since it first opened, generating more than $10.5 billion in sales in 2019, making it the 3rd largest restaurant chain in the United States behind Starbucks and McDonald's.
With COVID going on now for over a year, restaurants and events in downtown Nashville are still being affected by the virus and are still having to face challenges today.
The managers at Honky Tonk Central in downtown Nashville had something to say about COVID and how it has affected their restaurant.
I feel like with our restrictions that the city's put on us, we're definitely restricted as far as our capacity goes, the way we socially distance. The way our patrons come in, they have to wear a mask coming in. If they go to the restroom, they have to put a mask on. It's definitely affected business, but we are happy to be open, for sure.
Before COVID, people at Honky Tonk could stand up, dance, and socialize with other people. But ever since COVID started, now people have to just sit at their tables and can't dance anymore.
With taking back hours from our business, we're losing hours. We have to close by a specific time, 10 p.m. A lot of our main sales at night is from 10 till 3 a.m. And so it's taking a lot of our revenue away. And once again, like when you walk in the door, we absolutely make sure that everybody has a mask on. If you stand up, you have to have a mask on. There's no dancing allowed. There's no standing around, which has caused us to lose a lot of our business.
I think the most difficult thing to overcome has been, just trying to balance social life, home life, and work life. Everything is completely turned upside down for everybody. As far as the family goes, it's definitely a lot tougher without the kids being in school full time. Doing a half virtual 1 week, and then the next week, going to school a couple days a week. Just the family life has been turned around. As far as our business goes, this is something that we've never had to deal with before. So anytime you're jumping to something fresh and something new like this, it definitely puts kinks into what you're doing, whatever you're doing.
The managers at Honky Tonk have helped the employees through this rough time, even whenever they're closed and they're open.
Back in March, when we had to shut our doors, everyone throughout the city, the country, etc., the world, everything shut down. Everyone was confused, had no idea what was going on. Everyone went into panic mode of the unknown. And that is the number one thing that started, where fortunately with our owners, they took upon themselves to make sure their employees were taken care of. And we're very fortunate to have that. So once we were able to open our doors again, we started with the wearing the mask, taking temperatures, etc., to make sure that everybody is the 6 feet separation, the distancing. And we've worked very hard, and we're very proud of our staff in doing that. And we're trying to continue to do that. We're trying to get our mayor to open us up longer so we can actually make money within the company, so we can continue to have jobs, so we can continue to have a paycheck. And we're working our best at continuing that.
After the explosion in downtown Nashville, people at Honky Tonk helped people
down in downtown Nashville who were affected by this explosion make them feel safe and comfortable?
With the travesty of the bombing, obviously we were so close to ground zero for that. We had to close. I believe the bombing happened on Friday morning, so we were obviously closed Saturday and Sunday. And the city allowed us to reopen on Monday. Thankfully, they allowed us to do that, and we were able to make the people that were in the city, make them feel safe and comfortable by coming into our establishment. And we were able to open the Monday following the bombing, and we were very pleased with how busy we were and how many people were out downtown. I don't think it was to look at the destruction that the bombing did, but I just think they were here to support, and everybody came out Monday and the rest of that week to support our local business, and we're very thankful for that. And we were thankful that people felt safe enough to come and visit and enjoy our atmosphere.
ADHD affects many kids and adults. We interviewed Josh Groggins, a Brentwood High School football coach and an IEP case holder, Ellie Sheehan, a sophomore at BHS with ADHD, and Alex Ledbetter, a senior at BHS with ADHD.
I'm Ellie Sheehan, I'm a sophomore, and I struggle with ADHD. Not that it's a struggle, but I have it.
My knowledge with ADHD goes back a long ways. I've been teaching for 15 years almost, and I've been working exclusively with students with disabilities. The wide range of those has been mostly ADD/ADHD. So I've also been diagnosed with ADHD as a kid, so I've got a pretty extensive background of dealing with students with ADHD. I think ADHD is one of those things that goes undiagnosed probably more times than not. I think it's sometimes just attributed to child inattentiveness. So I think it's hard to put a number on, but if I was just going to throw a percentage, I'd say probably 50 to 60% of the population.
I would describe ADHD as having a hard time focusing and just committing to doing work.
Alex uses sports as a way to get his energy out. On the field, Alex can socialize, and with being able to get his energy out, he can focus better on things.
Oh, I can't focus at all in any class, and I get yelled at for it. And when I'm not on my medicine, I eat a ton, because you go to not eating one day to being so hungry the next, and I get yelled at that like a lot for eating, like a lot.
The struggles I see the most with students with ADHD is probably work completion and job focus. What I mean by job focus is being given a task, a worksheet, a test, whatever, and having the ability to sit and complete it in one sitting without having to take multiple breaks, or just getting it completed 100%. A lot of times they'll start it, finish it, or start it and do a little bit of it and not finish it.
On the days I do not take my medicine, like today, I get out my energy like walking around the hallways or listening to music, talking to friends, going on my phone.
What advice would I give somebody with ADHD? To me, I would just have to say find what works for you. I think ADHD is one of those diagnoses that I don't think there's one set method or medicine or anything that works for them. Me personally, growing up, I had to find a way to use it to be able to master the diagnosis without taking medicine. I didn't like the medicine. I didn't like the way it made me feel. So I had to find a way to be successful without it. So if it's medicine that helps you get through it, then I would say take medicine. If it's finding whatever rhythm, whatever system works best for you as a student is what you're going to have to do.
My medicine affects me both good and bad. Good because it helps me focus and get work done, but also negatively because it suppresses my appetite, so it's hard to eat sometimes, and sometimes it causes some anxiety.
My medication affects me by slowing down my brain, because my brain goes really fast and it never really slows down, so it slows down my brain. It makes me think more, but it makes me feel like crap, and it doesn't let me eat. I'm not hungry. I don't have an appetite. I'm very cranky. I'm emotional, so I don't like it. I think my medication helps because it's such a difference for when I'm off my medicine, and it does really slow down my brain, and I can focus more on little things.
My ADHD makes it a lot harder to just focus on schoolwork and studying for tests and everything, so I just have to work a lot harder. Teachers could be more aware, I think. If I tell them I have ADHD, they could, I guess, give me some more time to get work done, or just understand how it's hard for me to focus sometimes.
I think teachers can help me out more by just not being so rude when I am not focusing, because it is very hard for me to focus, and just being like, hey, Ellie, focus. But some teachers just scream at me for it, or I'm just okay, cool, I don't really okay.
It's big on the 12 up UA. But I shake the room. Swerve. Skirt. Go ahead and shake the room. Go ahead and shake the room. But I shake the room.
Merc by NutriShop.